Thank you, Dave. Thank you for that beautiful introduction. It means a lot to me, especially coming from a dear friend like you. And thank you to all you. I see some old faces, a lot of new faces. Matt Schuster, special shout out to you. Thank you for believing in me and loving me, and it feels wonderful being back here. Wow, this feels surreal. Yeah, so as Dave mentioned, and some of you know, some of you may not know, I see lots of new faces. I spent more than 13 years with this company and on this sales team. Saw the company do incredible things, going from CPT, CES, and PES to all kinds of credentials and really changing the world. And I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that what you all do here, fitness, wellness, education, really changes the world. It changes lives. It's actually why I'm standing here today. My fitness, my wellness journey was really strengthened from this culture, working here and really connecting with that. I survived by an inch, like Dave mentioned, and it's only because of my commitment to my fitness and wellness that I'm standing here today. And so the talk I'm going to share with you is really my story of learning and about awareness and presence. And for all of you, maybe we tend to, rush through our day-to-day, getting through emails and calls, attending to our personal needs of our family, without really slowing down. And what if you could just have a bit more presence to maybe ask the customer one more question on the phone, or maybe build that relationship a little bit more? Do you think you could be rewarded with a bit more professional and personal success? Yes. So it's one of those perfect Southern California late June evenings. And I'm on a motorcycle, cruising home, excited to see my family, and also a friend, Josh, who's visiting from Texas. Warm air, open road. The sun is sinking low as I pull up into my driveway, kickstand down, and switch off the engine. I walk inside. My daughters, 5 and 8 years old, are playing quietly on the couch, while my buddy Josh is perched at the kitchen counter, mid-story, making my wife laugh. Without missing a beat, my wife hands me a cold beer. Everything feels comfortable, wonderful, exactly as it should be. At least, that's what I thought happened. But none of it did. It was a dream playing out in my head as I lay on the asphalt dying. When a car hits a motorcycle at full speed, there's no time to react. There's no chance to brace for impact. It's just pure force and motion. 1 minute, your body is moving smoothly through space, aligned, balanced over 2 wheels, and the next, all that energy stops, and your body goes flying through the air. If you've ever jumped off a diving board, you know that split second where you feel weightless? Yeah, it's nothing like that. You don't float, you don't sail, you're launched violently, uncontrollably off your axis. And you're conscious and unconscious at the same time. Your mind is flooded with instinct. Your body is in free fall, and you can't keep up. The next thing is you hit the road. And the road doesn't care how strong you are. I was a lifelong athlete, as some of you know. A professional trainer. I was a professional soccer referee. At one point, the second fastest ref in the country. But none of that really matters. The road, takes what it wants. Snapping ribs, crushing the pelvis, the sternum, fingers, arms, the body just trying to shield itself at what's left of that momentum. Twisting in unnatural ways, and the pavement just keeps tearing away. Organs keep moving when the body has stopped. The liver twists, the heart slams into your chest cavity, your veins stretch past their limits. But pain doesn't arrive yet. The body shuts that down. What arrives at this point is something a bit more primal. A whole body alarm, a collapse, a quiet going under. And when your femoral artery is cut, like mine was, you bleed out and you have less than 3 minutes to live. Many imagine trauma as chaos, but the actual sensation when the body is trying to keep up is stillness. This is when most people don't survive. For me, it was the moment Sophie arrived. Sophie had been driving her car next to me and saw it all unfold. An elderly man blew through a stop sign at full speed, smashing right through me. She immediately made a U-turn, blocked oncoming traffic with her car, preventing cars from running me over. She called 911 immediately, and then wisely looked for and found my phone that was lying on the street. She called the last number on my phone, who was actually my buddy Josh, visiting from Texas, waiting at my house for his old friend who would never arrive. I woke up a week later in the hospital, full of titanium, tubes, and people often ask me, what was the first thing that changed about you after this accident? And at first I didn't know how to respond to that question, because the first thing it changed wasn't my body, it was my sense of who I thought I was. Because before the accident, speed was my identity. Skiing down mountains, running miles without thinking. I measured life by how much I could cram into each day. Morning workouts, late nights, adventures. And every Tuesday in my men's group, we would sit down and check in on a scale of 1 to 10. And I was always a 9 or a 10. I was the grateful guy. I was the guy who would carry everyone's backpacks, who would stay late and help clean up. Even though I was exhausted, I would say, I'm good. Because, I was good. But in the hospital, speed disappears. Life is whittled down into units. IV bags, beeping monitors, other people's hands turning you over because you can't turn yourself. I remember the first time they tried to sit me upright. 2 nurses, a count of 3, and then white. My blood pressure crashed. And all I could think at that moment was, this can't be me. This can't be the same body that chased my daughters around the park. The same body that sprinted alongside professional soccer players on the field of play. The body that summited towering mountains and skied down them. That was the moment I learned I lost my leg. And people hear amputation and they think that that's got to be the defining trauma. But for me, it was just one piece of a much larger puzzle. The real loss wasn't the leg, it was the life I assumed would go on uninterrupted, unchanged, guaranteed. And people talk about recovery like it's a comeback story. You fall, you fight, you rise. Nothing like that. Nothing like that for me. Recovery for me, it wasn't rising. It was really unraveling in a dramatic way, a quiet, devastating way. But in that silence that follows, something finally starts to emerge. Not inspiration, not determination, but awareness. A kind of radical attention I had never before experienced. I didn't gain a new life when they revived me. That part was just biology. My second life, the one I'm living right now, began later, when I realized that I hadn't lost my first life. I'd just never been really paying attention to it. And attention changes everything. In my old life, I thought attention meant velocity, checking boxes, hitting goals, being productive. If I was moving fast, I told myself, I was being productive. I was paying attention. But in that hospital bed, attention became something else entirely. My world had shrunk to a 12 by 15 foot hospital room, and I was aware of every inch of it. Every sound, every shift in the air, every sensation. I could actually feel the breeze from my wife's body when she entered the room each morning. Not her touch, a breeze. And Marie, my lovely wife, she came every day. She arrived in the morning and stayed late into the afternoon when she had to leave and go pick up our two daughters from school. And when she had to leave each day, my heart broke all over again. It was rough. I remember watching her walk out of the room each afternoon, and I would hold on to her as much as I could. Every part of her, every step, every movement, until the last strand of her hair disappeared around the corner. I wasn't able to sleep in those early days, so I would start counting the hours, 16 until she would come back. I was transferred to Cedars-Sinai Hospital, which was much further away from where we lived, and the traffic was super heavy for Marie every day. I remember lying in bed every morning, just watching that doorway, watching doctors, orderlies, nurses passing by. And then when I saw her finally walk in, it felt like an angel coming back into my room, my love, my energy. But I never asked her to stay. I knew she had to get home to be with our daughters. But when she left, it was brutal. And Marie, she held it all together as pieces of my life slowly came back to me. Born in South Korea, moving to the U.S. as a young girl and adapting to U.S. culture, and then joining the U.S. Air Force and eventually attaining the rank of lieutenant colonel, she has this quiet confidence about her. She has this planner's mind. She's a legitimate badass, Marie. And while I lay in that bed, she managed insurance calls. She called our friends and family, reminding everybody, updating everyone that, hey, Reed had no head injury, Reed had no spinal injury, he's still here, he's still alive, let's get through this. And I was raised Catholic, but not really practicing. But in those early hours, I felt closer to God than I ever have in my life. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't racing ahead. I wasn't planning the next thing. I was just there, fully there. In the first 7 weeks, I didn't see my daughters, not once. They knew that I was hurt and that I was being taken care of, but they did not know that Papa had lost his leg. And when I finally told them on a video call a couple days before I went home, I was terrified. I was terrified that my girls would see me differently. And the first thing that my eldest daughter said was, "Oh, are you going to get a prosthetic?" And my youngest said, "Like a robot leg? Can we put stickers on it?" And just like that, all my fear dissolved. They weren't focused on what I had lost. They were focused on what came next. And that's what I needed too. Physical therapy, it didn't start with walking. It didn't start with prosthetic mechanics. It really started with surviving. It was rough. When I arrived in inpatient rehab, I was under 130 pounds, a shell of the former athlete. My days were long, included 3 PT sessions, plus hours of wheelchair workouts, just to build enough strength to sit upright in bed. I remember the first time I tried to stand up in a walker. My leg was shaking, my arms were burning. I felt like I was going to collapse. It lasted just a few seconds, but it felt like a marathon. PT taught me to celebrate again. Not milestones, but victories. The first time I could transfer myself. The first time I could sit in a chair. The first time I could lift my body without thinking that my skeleton might collapse. It was exhausting. It was humbling. But it was proof that I wasn't just alive, I was healing. I finally came home on August 11th, 2023. The accident was June 27th, a date that's burned into my brain. And in the hospital, every day was about progress. But at home, I was surrounded by my former life. Motorcycles, sports gear, a calendar that was still open to the same day and month. All these reminders that life kept going on without me. And that's when a different kind of depression set in. Now, I'd been saddened deeply before, back in 2013 when my father died. But this was different. This was heavier. It was quiet. It was persistent. And I didn't have a playbook for it. So I did what I've always done. I got busy. A physical therapist came to my house daily. We did mobility drills, stump care, balance training, neuromuscular development, relearning the mechanics of living your life with one leg. And then I got hijacked by something called heterotopic ossification, extra bone growth around my injured hip, locking my hip in place. I had very little range of motion. I couldn't sit in a chair. I could barely even sit on a toilet. And eventually, after many months, a surgeon went in, literally with a hammer and a chisel, and carved away a lot of that extra bone, giving me almost 90 degrees of motion. Enough to continue. Enough to try a prosthesis. And I did. 6 months after the accident, I took my first steps. Shaky, frustrating, extremely challenging, painful, maybe 10 feet total, but it felt like a marathon. I was celebrating this moment. And somewhere along the way, PT stopped being about getting back to who I was. It became about meeting who I could be now. The guy who skis again, who plays para-standing tennis, the guy who chooses forward motion, even though it takes 4 times the effort. When I eventually returned to my men's group, I could no longer check in at a 9 or a 10. I couldn't perform okay. I let myself, maybe for the first time, be human. Just another guy in the circle. Honest. Not the strong one, not the fast one, not the guy who had everything figured out. Just honest, just human. And slowly, I learned how to reclaim movement in new ways. Walking on a prosthesis, falling, getting up, skiing on one leg, painful, messy, glorious. In tennis, my first love, or my last love before getting in the accident, became a part of my new chapter. Para-standing tennis, above knee amputees, category 3. I don't play to win. I play to learn. I play to build community. I play to practice presence, point by point, breath by breath. And the grief, well, I'm still learning that it doesn't respond to force. It doesn't respond to speed. It takes the time it takes. All I can do is make room for it and stop trying to outrun it. People have told me that trauma gives you perspective. But trauma doesn't give you shit. Maybe it strips away the assumptions so that you can finally see what's underneath. And in that stillness, first forced, then chosen, I began to learn something I never understood in my first life. That strength isn't about motion. Strength is about presence. And I know this is the part of the talk where I'm supposed to say that I'm grateful for the accident and that it's made me a better man, but I can't say that. I'm not here today to be your inspiration. I'm not here so you walk out thinking, damn, if that guy can get through that, I can get through anything. What happened to me shouldn't make you feel better about your life. It should make you more attentive to it. Today, I miss running. It's the thing I miss most. I was so fast. But I don't miss the moments I used to rush by. Nights reading to my kids while I was thinking about work. Drives up the street I lived on for years, barely noticing things. Or dinners with my wife while I'm planning out the next adventure, not even listening to the person I love most. Most of us, we don't need a second life. We just need to start living our first one with our eyes wide open. Because once you learn to pay attention like that, with your whole self, you begin to realize the life you lost really wasn't the one you thought it was. And that's what the accident forced me into, an awareness that I never would have chosen, but now one I refuse to live without. Thank you.
That's good.